Our top story at this hour. There's a furore of a report that has been compiled by the Treasury's acting chief procurement officer on a coal supply deal between Tegeta and Eskom. Reacting to the report, both Tegeta and Eskom have rebutted the claims that have been made in the report. Eskom in its statement says that it has been denied the opportunity to present their side of the National Treasury report. The power utility says that the then Finance Minister had made a commitment to afford Eskom an opportunity to comment on the investigations. It also denied the allegations that Board Chair Ben Gubane and the ex-CEO Brian Molefe misled the Parliament. Well, sources have told ANN7 that Tegeta too is skeptical of the report and says that it has been compiled casually. The Treasury's reported objection says that there are several instances of Tegeta getting paid more than the base price of the coal set at R13.50 per gigajoule. But Tegeta claims that variation due to the monthly change in diesel prices required for mining operation and was provided for in the contract. It also says that Treasury has completely overlooked instances when the actual price had been lower than the base price. Now, reported objections, the price paid above R13.50 per GJ was irregular expenditure and should be recovered. Tegeta finds faults and says it looks like the report compiler either did not study the CSA report properly or deliberately misinterpreted it to come to this factually inaccurate conclusion. More objections there coming from Tegeta. Over 65 million paid as an advance to Tegeta should be treated as loan as money was not used for the capacity augmentation. Tegeta finds faults. Also, the claim it's untrue that since advance was used to open a new drag lines to increase the production, and money also used for post-commencement finance for Optimum, which was under business rescue. Tegeta's discount of 3.5% resulted in savings of 21.5 million rand for Eskom, which is far greater than the likely interest. 16.68 million rand approximately Eskom would have earned on loan, and more objections there coming in. A non-compliant coal was delivered to Majuba Power Station at least during months of July to September of 2015. Now, only when a stockpile is approved by Eskom that the dispatch begins from the approved stockpile. This is the objection coming from Tegeta, and the rejected stockpile is removed from the stockpile area. It is impossible under the stringent framework to supply non-compliant coal. Brockfontein Colliery didn't meet the monthly targets for January and February of 2016. However, in January, Tegeta oversupplied 28,620 tons, and the shortfall in February was minimal, 1,886 tons. Treasury claims it is factually incorrect and that this can't be called a shortfall as the overall CSA target was achieved. Now, joining me in studio to shed some light on these allegations from the National Treasury against Tegeta is the CEO of Tegeta Exploration and Resources, that's Mr. Ravindra Math, and the CEO of Ope Resources and Energy, that's Mr. George van der Merwe. Joining us on the phone line is Eskom spokesman Khulani Goma and the Senior Project Developer for Energy Efficiency, Renewable Energy at the Energy Partners South Africa, Mr. Johan Pienaar. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon on Africa News Network. We certainly appreciate it as we try to ventilate all these issues that have been come out of this report. Your initial reaction to the draft report from Treasury?
Audrey, thanks for having ourselves, Mr. North, and me here today. I think we both have different views on this, but what is very clear about this report, that the person that compiled this report, he definitely did not understand the techno-commercial terms, or he blatantly created things from this with some other intentions which we don't know. And I think that if you give this report to a person who understands the energy and the contracts with Eskom, it will be quite easy for them to understand that he's definitely misleading the public with this report, or he is blatantly incompetent in compiling this report.
Right. Nath, your reaction? Obviously, you have gone through the report by now. George says that perhaps there's a motive behind this report because there's a lot of inaccuracies that Tegeta has been rebutting in this report.
In my opinion, the report has been compiled in a haste, and they have not studied the underlying documents properly, like coal supply agreement and all that. Only those portions have been taken which were suitable to National Treasury, and the other portions which explain those objections have been completely ignored, which clearly indicate that either the person who was involved in compiling this report is not aware of the actual processes of ESCOM, or he has deliberately ignored those things to malign the relationship between ESCOM and Tegeta.
Right, so this is your view, general view, and it has been compiled for the past 1.5 years. I think this is one of the revelations that we found. You have pointed out that Treasury's conclusion that Tegeta on several instances was paid more than the base price of coal set at 13 Rand 50 per GJ. Why would you say that, George?
Ma'am, in this regard, I would like to mention that there are, as per the clause 16 of CSA, there are several elements which form the basket for the price increase or decrease. Out of that, 6 elements are to be considered annually, and there is one element, that is diesel, which is to be considered on a monthly basis, and that forms the 8% of the total basket. Every month, the Department of Energy releases the diesel price, and on the basis of that, the ESCOM adjusts the price, which is the detailed thing has been mentioned in clause 17 of the CSA, and that's what I am telling, that the person who compiled has read the base price, which is in the portion in clause number 16, but completely ignored the clause 17, which says how the diesel increase is to be taken into consideration. In the report itself, they mentioned that they paid extra, but it may be observed, which I cannot reveal to you now, but there are certain instances where ESCOM paid us less than 13.5 Rand per gigajoule.
Right, and speaking of ESCOM, they also mentioned in this report by the National Treasury. Let's join in the conversation and welcome ESCOM spokesperson, Mr. Kulani Goma. Mr. Goma, very good afternoon to you. Thank you for joining us. I understand ESCOM has also taken issue with some of the accusations that have been cited in the National Treasury's report with their compilation. What is your initial reaction to this report? I'm assuming you have gone through it.
Yes, I've actually seen the report, but I'm not actually inclined to comment on the details or delve into the detail of the report, given the fact that we have a deadline to meet, so I have to respect that process. So I speak for the board, not necessarily, the operations or ESCOM per se. So essentially, our take is that the report is draft. So those that actually happen to have it in their hands need to actually respect that fact that they cannot necessarily, honestly and fairly form views about the contents of the report, given the fact that it is still in gestation. That would be my comment.
And speaking of the board, like you have mentioned, sir, that you're representing the board, the issue of advance payment is supposed to have been approved by the board, but it is cited as a problem in this particular report by the National Treasury. Would you like to explain that point to us?
No, I wouldn't want to get to the detail. We have actually explained a few things in the press release itself. But I wouldn't be it wouldn't be advisable of me to delve into the pertinent issues that are raised by the report at this particular moment.
Right. We also have on the phone line Mr. Johan Pienaar. He's an energy efficiency from Renewable Energy at Energy Partners South Africa. Johan, very good afternoon to you. Thank you for joining us. What is your reaction with regards to the Eskom and Tegeta and, of course, the report that has been compiled by National Treasury, the rebuttals that have come from Tegeta? Eskom also saying they haven't been properly consulted before this final report was made.
Yes, thank you very much for having me. I think from the industry point of view, every time that something like this surfaces in the media, it makes potential investors, take their money and put it elsewhere in a continent or anywhere else. So it's always a bit of a difficult situation to be in. So. Yeah, as I said, it sort of hinders growth. It sort of hinders potential investors to bring money in South Africa and to create jobs, especially in the renewable energy space. And if we could just see sort of less of these injustices, the better for everybody.
Now, with regards to the deal, obviously, between Eskom and Tegeta with the price target that had been set and the amount of money that they say that they actually saved Eskom, quite a bit of money indeed. What do you make of that whole relationship?
Look, I haven't had a chance to read the report in detail, but yeah, sure, if there's a lot of money that's going on. So my point would be just to say that there's a lot of work to be done, and all of these little scuffles between Eskom and Treasury and government and public and private sectors, it all sort of hinders the growth and the potential that we have as a country to grow, especially in the energy industry.
Right, coming back into studio here to get more clarity on the issue on this report. I don't know who wants to take this question now.
Audrey, I just, I don't want to make a comment. I appreciated what Johan was saying, and it just shows you that it is more. This is not the first time that this draft report has come out. This is maybe the second or the third time this draft report has come out. So if there isn't an intent from somebody in Treasury to actually do harm, then why is this draft report keep coming out? And this matter has been going on for a year and a half, and these questions have been asked and answered duly. And every time they come to us with a question, we give them the responses, and there's never someone that comes back and says, look, we're not quite happy with your response. Maybe you can clarify or broaden it. The report just comes out again, and it is just phrased differently, but the content is the same from day one. So I must agree with Johan to say that, we wish that if there is any issues, let's resolve the issues, and if there's any questions, we sit with Eskom, with Treasury, and we explain, all our answers to that. And if they find something wrong, then of course, we're ready to pay the price for that.
Right, and hopefully we can get clarity on some of those questions that have been, allegations that have been in media as well for the past 1.5 years, like you have said. Was transport being handled by Eskom? Because there's an issue about Tegeta having said that they had to increase the price or ask for an increase of the toll because you had to take care of those expenses.
This is another reason why, my first point was to say that the guy that was actually drafting this report, is really incompetent in this field, because of the fact that he says that he doesn't understand why Tegeta gets a diesel increase when Eskom is delivering the coal. My first question would be to him is, how does he think the coal gets from the pit where it is mined to the stockpiles where it is generated? I mean, if he's got a way that we can do it without using diesel, I mean, he should let us know. I mean, we'd all save a lot of money, rather than keeping it to himself.
And I suppose this is the communication that you have a problem with, that you are not consulted to give all these points that you're giving today for him to get an understanding of what this transportation aspect you're talking about now. Nath, you want to contribute to that?
Yeah, I will like to mention one thing, ma'am, that the contract, the CSA which we have signed, is a standard contract of Eskom. The terms and conditions are the same for all the Eskom contracts. And in all the Eskom contracts, I challenge the guy who has compiled this report, that he should go and see in each and every contract, this 8% of diesel has an inherent factor in contract, and with all those companies where they are not doing the actual transportation of coal. So this is being highlighted with a ulterior motive and nothing else, or the person is not ready to listen or not ready to read the agreement CSA itself.
And this is another challenge we have with this report. The fact that it remains in draft. It never gets further than draft. So as Johan was saying, and as everybody is saying, we cannot comment really on it because it's in draft. However, it is already leaked to the media, this thing. So we want to face it and maybe hope that it can come out of a draft form so that we can actually attack the true principles behind each of these questions.
But I think you can talk to us about a suggestion that 659 million was paid in advance to Tegeta and that it should be treated as a loan. And this is, I think, the suggestion that came from the National Treasury, as it was not used for capacity augmentation. Would you agree to that?
What I want to
is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, I want to tell on this regard only one thing, that 659 odd million which was advanced by Eskom to Tegeta, for that Tegeta gave a discount of almost 21.5 million rand, and this money was repaid, or you can say repaid by the supply of coal in 5 months' time, by every month by supply of certain quantity of coal. So in this way, if this money would have been placed by Eskom to any bank or would have given to anybody as a loan at PLR, which is, I think, is the fair thing to consider, Eskom would have only recovered 16.5 million rand, whereas by this, in the form of discount, they have actually realized 21.5 million rand. So as a result, the Eskom has benefited by 5 million rand.
Right, let's get a word in from Eskom. I hope you're still with us, Mr. Goma. This 659 million rand allegation that Eskom gave to Tegeta as an advance should actually be treated as a loan. Would you agree to that?
Well, I did explain it right from the beginning that I wouldn't actually be able to engage further on the merits or demerits of the issues being raised in the review itself or in the report. So I wouldn't actually go beyond that. But we are expected to respond by the 21st, and that's what we are busy with. So in the meantime, then I don't think it would be wise of us as Eskom in particular to actually start talking and actually engaging in detail on the issues that are pertinent to this particular matter.
But is it normal procedure for Eskom to be able to give an advance of that amount of money to a company that is seen to be, be able to have the capacity to provide this coal?
Well, let the process then decide on that. Eskom, in good mind, it did actually, engage in the manner that it did, and that was actually not based on any kind of a dump sack. So it was a prudent decision. We still believe it is a prudent decision that we made at the time. We will actually do it if a similar circumstance or to represent itself. So now things are as they are actually under review, so we'll actually want to wait for the process and then we engage with this matter appropriately at a correct time.
Satisfaction from the merits of this report?
Come again, sorry?
Are you satisfied by the merits of this report from the National Treasury?
No, we're not. Definitely not. Because remember, we're not given an opportunity to respond before this report was made available to third parties. So we certainly are not happy with the report in its current form, and possibly that actually arises from the fact that we've not had input that we should have had, which now we're supposed to give by the 21st. But the report is already with third parties as we speak. So the challenge with that is those that have it in their hands, or if it happens to leak, for instance, the people that will be seeing the report, they will believe that it is final and everything that is there is conclusive when it is not, and the damage will result.
Right, Eskom spokesperson there, Mr. Kulani Goma, thank you so much for your time. Of course, we appreciate the fact that it is a leaked report and a lot of some of the issues here that we're discussing are prejudice, but we appreciate you being here together and trying to shed some light on that. There's an issue
I'd like to jump in here, I'm sorry for this. I think it's very unfair from them to state that there should have been a loan. Well, let's see where Optimum was at that stage. I mean, it was in business rescue and had been in business rescue for 6 months. There was no capital which was spent on any of the equipment. Their production was down to its bare minimum. So for us to be able to bring in the volumes which was needed by Arnold at that stage, we practically had to double our production. And to do that, we had to start up drag lines. We had to start up new equipment in everything just to be able to, facilitate that. And in doing so, I mean, Eskom saved over 600 million just in terms of the coal purchase price from us. And whether it was a good bet or not, I think we delivered the coal 1.5 months earlier than what was needed.
Right. Issue of non-compliant coal being delivered. Nath, would you like to respond to that? That also was cited in the report.
Again, that this is also a misinterpretation and misleading facts have been placed in the report, because it is impossible to supply non-compliant coal. The procedure which is prescribed by Eskom, only pre-certified stockpiles can be supplied to Eskom. And the procedure is that firstly the stockpile is compiled, and while creating that stockpile, the sampling takes place as per the procedure prescribed by Eskom, and then in the presence of Eskom's rovers who are supposed to be there 24 hours. And when that sample is ready, then Eskom's nominated people come and pick it, and they take it to Eskom nominated lab. And once the sample is sent to Eskom nominated lab, a yellow flag is put on that stockpile, which shows that this stockpile is under consideration. Then that lab do the necessary tests and submit the report to Eskom and to the supplier simultaneously. And if the report is found to be satisfactory and the sample is passed, a green flag is put on the top of the sample, on the top of the stockpile, and only that stockpile the rovers of Eskom allow to be transported. So it
sounds like a very strict process where there's no loopholes for any mistake, for any non-compliant coal, as has been suggested, to come through. But of course, these are the allegations that are coming from the National Treasury. There's an issue of money where Tegeta should have only been paid 18 Rand 68. I don't know if we have clarified that issue instead of the rate of 1969. Where's this figure come from, George?
We're also quite surprised. I mean, and if you have a look at this figure, I hope it's true, and I encourage it to be true, because I mean, Eskom is paying us at Brakfontein 13 Rand 50 gigajoule, which is a published price. So where does the 1886 comes from? In one of our other mines, they're paying us 18 Rand. So again, I mean, why are we being paid so low? At Indrina, I'm being paid 8 Rand 50 a gigajoule. So my question is to say, at least we should, all get the same price. If that is the going price, Treasury, I'm happy. Let me supply at that price. But the other part is that then what is the need for negotiations? If there is a going price, then why do we need to negotiate with Eskom? I mean, there's a fixed price to it. Let's go. Let's put the price in, and off you go. So I feel that price is, again, something that is, I don't know where it comes from, how he's came to this. I mean, the various qualities which gets supplied, I mean, there cannot be a single price for an Eskom product. It's just not possible.
I just want to get this question very quickly from you, Nath, before we leave. The suggestion that Eskom has been favouring Tegeta, the suggestion is no longer implicit, given all the political claims that CEO Brian Molefe's perceived closeness to Tegeta's shareholders, the Gupta family. What is your response to that?
I want to mention in this regard only one thing, that in October, we made a request to Eskom. It is the public perception that Eskom is doing big favour, but the fact is we asked them to cancel all our contract, because the price at which we are supplying the coal to Eskom presently, if Eskom want to secure this coal from any other source, I can challenge Eskom has to pay at least 2 billion Rand per month
And with that, we have to wrap it up, gentlemen. Thank you so much for your time. We have run out of time. We appreciate you being here. And of course, to our guests, we're on the phone line there. That